Hello students, I am Raman Gupta from Government College Bara. In this video, I will teach you the characteristics of the age of Elizabeth, which is from 1550 to 1620. In the last video, we have read about the history of the period. Let's have a look on the political summary again. In the age of Elizabeth, all doubt seems to vanish from English history. After the reigns of Edward and Mary, with defeat and humiliation abroad and persecutions and rebellion at home, the accession of a popular sovereign was like the sunrise after a long night. And in Milton's words, we suddenly see England, a noble and puissant nation, rousing herself like a strong man after sleep and shaking her invincible locks. This is a great quotation in Milton's words. With the Queen's character, a strange mingling of frivolity and strength, which reminds one of the iron image. Sorry, which reminds one of the iron image with feet of clay. We have nothing whatever to do. It is the national life that concerns the literary student, since even a beginner must notice that any great development of the national life is invariably associated with a development of the national literature. It is enough for our purpose, therefore, to point out two facts. What were those two facts? That Elizabeth, with all her vanity and inconsistency, steadily loved England and England's greatness, and that she inspired all her people with the unbounded patriotism which exults in Shakespeare, and with the personal devotion which finds a voice in the Fairy Queen. Students, it is also believed and it is said that it was a fact that Queen Elizabeth did not accept the proposal of marriage from the King of Spain because of her national interest. She did not want to make Britain or England under the supremacy of King of Spain. So she denied for that proposal. Under her administration, the English national life progressed by gigantic leaps rather than by slow historical process, and English literature reached the very highest point of its development. It is possible to indicate only a few general characteristics of this great age, which had a direct bearing upon its literature. Characteristics of the Elizabethan age. Now come to the point. The most characteristic feature of the age was the comparative religious tolerance. So the point is religious tolerance, which was due largely to the queen's influence. The frightful excesses of the religious war, known as the 30 Years' War. This can be asked in objective type questions. 30 Years' War on the continent found no parallel in England. It was the it was the dispute of religion between Catholics and Protestants. Upon her accession, Elizabeth found the whole kingdom divided against itself. The north was largely Catholic, while the southern counties were as strongly Protestant. Scotland had followed the Reformation in its own intense way, while Ireland remained true to its old religious traditions. Traditions, and both countries were openly rebellious. The court, made up of both parties, witnessed the rival intrigues of those who sought to gain the royal favor. It was due partly to the intense absorption of men's minds in religious questions that the preceding century, though an age of advancing learning, produced scarcely any literature worthy of the name. The literature was produced was of no worth. Elizabeth favored both religious parties, and presently the world saw with amazement Catholics and Protestants acting together as trusted counselors of a great sovereign. The defeat of the Spanish Armada established the Reformation as a fact in England, and at the same time united all Englishmen in a magnificent national enthusiasm. Students, as I told you in the last video, that Spanish Armada was destroyed by a natural disaster, a natural storm which appeared in the ocean. It destroyed the whole Spanish Armada, but before that, Queen Elizabeth motivated Englishmen to fight against Spanish Armada till their last breath, and they won in this battle as a miracle happened with them in a miraculous way. So queen was regarded by a divine as a divine lady by the English people. For the first time since the Reformation began, the fundamental question of religious toleration seemed to be settled, and the mind of man freed from toleration from religious fears and persecutions turned with a great creative impulse to other forms of activity. It is partly from this new freedom of the mind that the age of Elizabeth received its great literary stimulus. The second point is social contentment. There was contentment in the social matters. It was an age of comparative social contentment in strong contrast with the days of Langland. The rapid increase of manufacturing towns gave employment to thousands who had before been idle and discontented. Increasing trade brought enormous wealth to England, and this wealth was shared to this extent, at least, that for the first time some systematic care for that needy was attempted. Parishes were made responsible for their own poor, and the wealthy were taxed to support them or give them employment. The increase of wealth, the improvement in living, the opportunities for labor, the new social content, these also are factors which help to account for the new literary activity. The third point is enthusiasm. It is an age of dreams, age of adventure, age of unbounded enthusiasm, springing from the new lands of fabulous riches revealed by English explorers. Students, Englishmen were moving towards different nations and they were bringing fabulous wealth from there. Drake sails around the world, shaping the through mighty course which English colonizers shall follow through the centuries. And presently, the young philosopher Bacon is saying confidently, I have taken all knowledge for my province. The mind must search farther than the eye, farther than the eye. With new rich lands open to the sight, the imagination must create new forms to people the new worlds. Hakluyt's famous collection of voyages and perchance his pilgrimage were even more stimulating to the English imagination than to the English acquisitiveness. While her explorers search the new world for the fountain of youth, her poets are creating literary works that are young forever. Marston writes, why men, all their dripping pants are pure gold. The prisoners they take are fettered in gold. And as for rubies and diamonds, they go forth on holidays and gather them by the seashore to hang on their children's coats. This comes nearer to being a description of Shakespeare's poetry than of the Indians in Virginia. Prospero in The Tempest, with his control over the mighty powers and harmonies of nature, is only the literary dream of that science which had just begun to grapple with the forces of the universe. Cabot, Drake, Frobisher, Gilbert, Raleigh, Willoughby, Hawkins, a score of explorers reveal a new earth to men's eyes, and instantly literature creates a new heaven to match it. So, dreams and deeds increase side by side, and the dream is ever greater than the deed. That is the meaning of literature. The next point is the characteristic is the drama, the increase, the development of drama. To sum up, the age of Elizabeth was a time of intellectual liberty, of growing intelligence and comfort among all classes, of unbounded patriotism. It was the time of the development for intellectual liberation in the all classes and of peace at home and abroad. For a parallel, we must go back to the age of Pericles in Athens or of Augustus in Rome, or go forward a little to the magnificent court of Louis XIV, while Corneille, Racine, and Molière brought the drama in France to the point where Marlowe, Shakespeare, and Johnson had left it in England. Half a century earlier, such an age of great thought and great action, appealing to the eyes as well as to the imagination and intellect, finds but one adequate literary expression. Neither poetry nor the story can express the whole man, his thought, feeling, action, and the resulting character. Hence, in the age of Elizabeth, literature turned instinctively to the drama and brought it rapidly to the highest stage of its development. So, this was all about the characteristics of this age. Read it well, and in the next video, we'll discuss some other literary period or term literary terms. Thank you and have a nice day.